Hi there, ho there. It is Martin Prevost. This is Rank the Movies down there somewhere. One of these days, I will figure that out for a live stream. And I am doing another Movies from the Unwatched shelf. This is I'm calling it episode 6 of this last cycle that I started in January. So this is episode 6 of 2021, not counting the ones I did before. I think it's like 10 overall or 12. It's something. I don't know how many of these I've done, but I'm calling it 6. Bam! Bam, bam, bam. I'm weird. So I'm gonna go over a bunch of movies I've recently watched that I've never seen before. There are some I am doing solo videos on, and I watched specifically to talk about them in a long form video, so I'm not gonna cover them right now, right here. You'll have to wait a couple of weeks for the long form to come out. Actually might be over a month before that long form comes out. But anyways, I'm going to cover everything else I've watched for the last, it's closer to 2 weeks actually, since the last time I did movies from the Unwatched shelf. So 2 weeks ago, almost 3 weeks ago, possibly. No, 2 weeks, almost 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago tomorrow. Happy St. Patrick's Day as well. You know, that is what today is. It is St. Patrick's Day. Yay! St. Patrick's Day! We love it. We love St. Patrick's Day. I'm not Irish at all. Um, so just gonna fix my volume a little bit so I'm not screaming at you for the entire run. Not Irish, don't need to be drinking right now. If you are Irish, happy St. Patrick's Day. If you're a person who celebrates, happy St. Patrick's Day. I'm talking about a bunch of movies I've watched for the first time. So let's get this train a rolling with the to-do list. I was unaware of this movie's existence in the fact that I've never cared. I've seen it. Like when I held the cover for the Blu-ray, I realized I had seen this movie. Um, or like I had seen it before, but I never really paid attention to who's in it or what is it about. Because it stars Audrey Plaza, Bill Hader, Ali Sawcast. It has Donald Glover in it, Andy Samberg. So it's got a pretty decent cast of actors putting this movie together. It's basically about a high school valedictorian who, between graduating high school and going off to college, decides she wants to experience what she's been missing throughout high school, which is sexual activities, and she makes a to-do list of the various things she wants to do, such as having sex, a blowjob, a hand job, all these other things, like anything and everything she can think of, she put on her list. And it's a to-do list that she makes check marks next to as she does it. It is such a weird movie. It's pretty entertaining. It is not graphic at all for what this movie is about. It's not graphic. There's nothing graphic in this movie. It's all done for laughs. I wouldn't say let your kids watch it, but it is all done for laughs. So it is very entertaining. It is a good time. I enjoy it. I liked what I watched. It's a very good job. Again, it's not one. I had seen the case for it, and I just never, connected it to being something I wanted to watch until I came across it recently, and I'm like, oh man, all these people are in it who I now know of, who I really didn't know who they were back when they made this movie in like 2013. I wasn't 100% sure on all of them because I hadn't started watching Parks and Rec, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Community, all that stuff. So it was a lot of names I didn't recognize, and now I do. But it's a good movie. I suggest the to-do list. This is definitely the farthest out for movies I've never seen before, as far as like how far in the past it has been since I watched them. I did watch Coming to America. I didn't grab its poster and throw it up here. It's not bad. It's on Amazon Prime. If you have a Prime membership, you can watch it. It's an unnecessary sequel, but it has its redeeming qualities. Next up, we have Kill Theory. Kill Theory is a horror movie. Literally, when I bought this DVD of it, it looked like it was actually a compilation, like, oh, 8 horror films, but it was part of a festival that then released the films onto DVD, and each film is individual. It just says 8 horror films though, and it's kill. So I was a little confused when I was first looking for it, because I don't want to buy a pack of movies. I just want the one movie. Why can't I just buy the one? I did. It is just the one. Kill Theory is about a man who is being released from a mental hospital because while on a hiking and rock climbing trip with his friends, the rope begins to snap as they're climbing the face of a mountain, and he makes the decision to cut his three friends loose and let them fall to their deaths instead of letting the rope snap and all of them fall to their death. Um, he is told he needs to get more counseling, but he is being released because he was sent there after the trial for if to see if he had done something wrong. The reason he is getting more therapy is because there is something he does not, him and his psychiatrist disagree on, and that is that in a similar situation, anyone else would have done the same thing. That anyone else would have saved themselves over letting, over trying, just to die. You'd save yourself over dying. Um, so he puts this to the test. He finds a group of 8 friends who are in a cabin and basically just tells them that if one of them is alive by 6 a.m., it's about 3 a.m. when this starts. So they have 3 hours. If one of them is alive at 6 a.m., just one, everyone else is dead, just the one of them, he will let them go free. But if there's any more than one person alive, he will kill them all. Um, and he sets it out. It's kind of like almost sci-ish in the idea that he has really planned this out and set it up in this cabin so that he has a sniper rifle. He's watching them. He's got things rigged so if they try to leave in a vehicle, something will stop the vehicle to make sure they cannot leave. And they play by his rules. And of course, you do start to see of these 8 people um, the cracks form in that some of them actually, do prove his statement very true. Then in this situation, they are they're almost all too willing to kill each other if that means they get to live. And these are friends and couples, so they're willing to kill people that they supposedly care for in order to survive. It was a very interesting movie. I really did enjoy it. Like I said, it's not one you're going to find readily, but if you ever get a chance to check out Kill Theory, it is worth it. It's got a couple actors you'll recognize if you watch shows like Orange is the New Black and Sons of Anarchy. But beyond that, it's a decent film. I enjoyed it. I'm glad I checked it out. It was definitely worth the time. Next up, we have Wedding Days. This movie's bad. It's got a decent cast: Jason Biggs, Azalea Fisher, Joe Pantalone. I'm misspelling. I'm just going into the fact I'm saying his name incorrectly, and some other actors I recognized. Basically, Jason Biggs proposes to his girlfriend, who then quickly dies of a heart attack. All right. 1 year later, he is still a mopey bastard, and his best friend tells him he needs to get back out on the horse. So he proposes to the pretty waitress at the diner they're at. She had actually been proposed to by her long-term boyfriend, who she did not answer right away because she was scared, but she quickly says yes to Jason Biggs. They then move in together, and there are antics with meeting their parents because these two don't know each other. They fall in love and definitely get married. My stream is still going. All right. I just paused on my end for a second. Um, Anyways, in the end, everyone gets arrested. It's a bad movie. There's not a lot of funny in it. The acting is fine, but it's still a pretty bad movie. Um, I don't know what made me. I bought this movie before and decided not to watch it and just sold it. And now I bought it again, going, I'm actually gonna watch it this time, and I'm really regretting it. I'm really like, this isn't the worst movie I watched out of this entire list. It's not even the most boring movie I watched. It's just a bad movie. And if you ever see it like on a television or you're going through a streaming service, oh, Wedding Days, just don't watch it. The only thing that's worth watching this movie for is to go, man, Isaiah Fisher is really cute. That's about it. There's nothing else that this movie offers other than that statement. Next up, I have Ruin Me. This is another kind of lesser known horror film. Basically, it is about a couple who go to a slasher campout. Basically, it is kind of like an escape room, um, haunted house kind of thing, but it's over a couple of days and you camp out over it. There are other people who are also taking part in this camp out, and basically it runs the concept of is it all fact or does something happen where the game becomes real? Is it the game the whole time or does it become real? Also, the main character is taking drugs that you find out are antidepressant, but she takes a lot of them, mainly because her boyfriend keeps reminding her to take her drugs. Um, I don't know. I liked Ruin Me. It's a very simple concept because they go on this sleep out and eventually the people start dying. But it does do a very nice job of you're watching it going, oh man, maybe this turned real, and there's actually killers out there. And then they'll do another scene that makes you go, maybe, or maybe this is all part of the game. But then why did this stuff happen? And it builds to the ending. So it's a very well made movie because it keeps you guessing as to whether or not what's going on is real or all just part of this fantasy that's being built. So I like that aspect of it. It's definitely one worth watching. Um, I recommend it. It's up there on this week's list. It's not my favorite I've watched this week. That is Carnage. This is another one, much like Wedding Days. I've owned this movie in the past. I owned this movie shortly after it came out and never watched it and got rid of it because I wasn't watching it. And I came across a Blu-ray copy of it at the same time I bought the to-do list, and I went, "Man, I'm gonna watch this," and I did. I watched it because that's what I'm talking. That's why there's a poster over here. Is because I finally watched it. It is based on a play. It was a very well done movie. Basically, the plot is two married couples. You have Jodie Foster and John C. Riley and Kate Winslet and Christopher Waltz are the couples. Their kids got into an altercation where one of them, Christopher Waltz and Kate Winslet's son, took a stick and smashed John C. Riley and Jodie Foster's son in the face, and it caused damage, broken teeth. And the two couples are coming together to discuss the problem and come up with a solution. And it's just a great structure because you'd think it would be a really quick thing. You'd get together, oh, we'll pay for the damage, yada, yada, yada. We'll make them apologize, all that stuff. But then they keep going deeper and they keep trying just to be friendly. Like, oh, do you need a cup of coffee? Would you like an espresso? Maybe some cobbler, which keeps pulling them back in because Christopher Waltz is the businessman who's just trying to get the hell out of there because he's got other things to deal with and he doesn't want to be there. He just wants to get out, but he keeps getting pulled back in. And finally, like halfway through the movie, he just says "screw it," and he is just there, and he is done. He is just gonna say his piece, and that's just it. Everyone's putting on that facade you put on around strangers, and that facade slowly breaks down because they can't get away from each other because they keep getting pulled back in by someone's comment. Somebody says something that triggers something else until booze eventually gets introduced, and it's a great piece of cinema. I really enjoyed it. This is definitely the best movie I saw out of this collection. This would be my number one. Um, and seriously, if you get a chance, check out Carnage. It is a lot of fun. It is basically those four actors because it is very much filmed like it was a three-dimensional play instead of like I've seen other plays transcribed into movies, and they take it other places. They move scenes to new locations, and basically the only thing they added in was instead of a scene probably that was supposed to happen at the front door, they've opened it up because it's an apartment building to being in the hallway heading towards the elevator, and then they come back into the apartment. So it's really shot like it's a three-dimensional play on a 3D stage where you don't have the audience on one side, and you can put anything anywhere there and add a little more depth, but it still very much feels like it's the play. Not that I've ever seen the play God of Carnage. That is what the play is called. But I believe it's a lot like how that would feel, which I really enjoyed. All right, next up, we have The Lodge. I was really interested in this one, and for me, it was so slow. It was a chore to get through, and that's not the only one on this list. That it was just too slow for me, and it might not have been too slow for me in the I'll never appreciate this movie if I ever rewatch it for some reason. It was just too slow for me for when I was watching it. For what I went in with expectations, and it was just way slower than the expectations. And it was longer than it should have been a little bit. So this is another response movie. I mentioned Wrong Turn, the 2021 remake, and the last movies from the Unwatched shelf. There was kind of like trying to be Hereditary and Midsummer and those movies. This is another response film to that stuff. And again, I think those movies drag and are just way too slowly paced for my like. And again, it doesn't mean it's a bad movie. That's just my opinion. I'm not saying it's universally bad. This is just not one I like. Basically, it is about a pair of children who are sent to a cabin in the woods with their soon to be stepmother. She's only dating their father. Their father has to go to work, so he drives away. And it starts snowing heavily because the father never checked the weather reports to see how bad it would be and took the only vehicle. And like, I live in Wisconsin. I know about snow. And like, I saw this cabin and the way it was set up. This is not a cabin you go to in the winter because you have to reverse out of the driveway and the driveway curves. It's like you would come in from behind the cabin and curve around to the front of the cabin. I'm like, no, not in winter. You don't do that in the winter with snow. I don't care how good of a driver you are. You're not gonna try to do whee in the winter because you're gonna end up, which actually does happen at the end of the movie. One of the characters tries to leave and they reverse their car into a snowbank because they're idiots. So dad doesn't check the weather report and they end up getting a lot of snow. They end up waking up one morning finding that everything is gone. All of their possessions, all they have, all their food, all they have is the clothes on their backs, and their phones are dead because they have no power. The generator is also no longer working. The children believe that they are dead, that they had died, and this is what purgatory is like because the soon to be stepmother was part of a doomsday cult. Now, I watched this movie with my roommate. He walked in about 20 minutes into it. And by the end of it, he was just rooting for the doomsday cult to come back, which it does. The ending is the best part of this movie. It's a really good ending. I'm not going to spoil it, but the ending is the best part. I'm not saying it's worth the hour and 45 minutes to get there. The ride might not be worth the destination, but the destination was really good. It's one of those, I got on the bus and the ride sucked, but I really liked what happened when I got off. Um, kind of things. You wouldn't take the ride again just to get there, but you're okay with it because you're there already. It's one of those endings. But yeah, if you're interested, if that sounded like an interesting plot, because I will say this, that the kids are setting up the soon-to-be stepmom and trying to make her go nuts. So that part is interesting, and that's what made me go, man, I kind of want to watch this movie. That sounds kind of interesting. But it was just so slow and plotty, which I get it for this movie. That's what you kind of want. But I feel like it was just a hair too slow. Like, I could have picked up just a little. I'm not even saying like it needed to be boom, 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 boom. But like it was like boom, boom. Like it should have been boom, boom. Like not a huge difference there, but there's enough, and would it would have kept my interest more. For some people, the the pacing they have is fine. For me, I'm just not that person. So I'm not saying it's the worst movie I watched this week. It's just not one I cared for. Next up, we have Stop, or My Mom Will Shoot. Why did I watch this? I was hoping it'd be better. This is considered one of the worst movies ever made. Stars Sylvester Stallone and Estelle Getty. So if you've ever wanted to see Sylvester Stallone work with one of the Golden Girls, here's the movie for you. I might have watched this when I was a kid, but I did not remember it. So I'll, I'll, I'll consider it one I've never watched before. I was hoping, it would be better than what you hear, because you hear about these god awful movies, the worst movies ever made, and sometimes you get one that it's bad, but it's enjoyably bad. I feel that way about The Adventures of Pluto Nash. I'm willing to say it. I think it's an enjoyably bad movie. Stop or My Mom Will Shoot is just a bad movie. I don't even want to get into the plot because it's ridiculous. But I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try. Sylvester Stallone's mom comes to visit him. He is a cop, and she tries to help out on the case he's working because she witnesses a drive-by shooting. And Sylvester Stallone is dating his boss, and the only weird thing isn't that it's his boss, but that he's a committophobe. It's a bad movie. Sylvester Stallone is bad at it. Estelle Getty's bad. It's just a bad movie. Highly recommend not watching Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. Um, the weirdest part really is when Sylvester Stallone says the title of the movie, because you can hear it. YouTube that part. See if you can find that. Um, because Sylvester Stallone sounds like he has given up on life because he said yes to this movie. Next up, we have a sequel to a movie I did on the last Movies from the Unwatched shelf. That is Rooster Teeth's Laser Team 2. This, after watching The Lodge and Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, this was a breath of fresh air. This was a good movie. It's a stupid comedy, much like the original. This time, Laser Team has to go to space to try to stop the same threat from Earth in the original movie. Um, it is what it is. There's a snail. That was a great part. They released the most dangerous creature in the world, which is an alien snail that just slowly follows them for like a good chunk of this movie. It's just all of a sudden you'd see them exit a scene, and then a second later you'd see the snail crawl through because it's chasing them, but it's chasing them at the speed of a snail, which is a great movie. It's kind of like It Follows, where the demon can only walk after you. I like that idea of the slowly coming death. The snail does end up killing a character, not one of the members of Laser Team, but another character, and then Laser Team freaks out and runs away because they realize the snail is now looking at them and wants to kill them as well. It's a fun movie. If you check out the original Laser Team, the first one, watch the sequel. It's worth it. It's just as good. Next up, a classic, and I'm glad I watched this one. We have The Poseidon Adventure, starring Gene Hackman, Ernest Borgnine, and there's a bunch of other names attached to this film. I really enjoyed it. I like Poseidon, the Kurt Russell remake that they did in 2006, I think, somewhere in the early 2000s. I like Poseidon. The Poseidon Adventure is also very good. It's a lot less. Poseidon has that slashery element to it. It's not even a horror film, but it has the element of, they walk into a room and someone's gonna die. That is like I rewatched Poseidon a couple of weeks ago. I think around New Year's, and yeah, that's what I felt like. Oh, somebody dies. Oh, somebody died. Oh, somebody died. They can't like walk through a room without losing someone. This one does not have that same feeling. Characters do die within this movie, but it's much more spread out. Like you get to know them a lot more and care a little more when some of these characters die, which is very nice. It's very well acted. It's very well designed. Overall, there's not much to the story. If you've watched any version of the Poseidon Adventure, you know the story. A giant wave hits the ocean liner Poseidon on New Year's Eve. It capsizes, and a group of survivors exit the ballroom that they're in to try to work their way up to what is now up. So down through the ship, but up, because everything's inverted, to get closer to the surface so they can be rescued while everyone who stays in the ballroom is killed. Um, which, this one it happens way quicker. Like in the remake, you cut back to the ballroom a couple of times before they finally die. And actually, it's kind of is the fault of the people who are trying to make it up higher because they start flooding ballast tanks, which makes the ship sink, which eventually causes the ballroom to be taken in by water. Where in the original, literally, those who decide to go and try the escape through the bottom of the ship, like the minute they go, okay, we're up here, we're no longer in danger, we're going to start our adventure, bam, water comes in, and everyone else tries to follow them, and they topple over their ladder, their makeshift ladder, which is a Christmas tree, and drown. So they're taken out, bam, right away. And it just focuses on the rest of these survivors. Though they do run into another group of survivors in this version. That's a very short and brief segment. Overall, I like the Poseidon Adventure. I think it's just a story I enjoy. I'm not sure if I'd go out of my way. I know there's one with not Stephen Baldwin. One of the Baldwins is in a version of it that was made for TV. I'm not sure I'd go as far as to watch that one. But as far as this one and its theatrical remake, I think they're both pretty good movies, and they're definitely worth checking out. Next up, we have The Watcher, starring James Spader, Marissa Tomei. For some reason, her character is very unimportant to this entire movie, and Keanu Reeves. It's short. That's the best I could say about this movie. It's short. It's an hour and a half, so they don't drag it out. Um, I feel like this movie was supposed to have a different ending than it was supposed to. Um, Keanu Reeves is a serial killer who strangles women after watching them and figuring out their patterns. And James Spader is the FBI agent trying to catch him, who retired but is coming out of the field because now the Watcher is signaling him out to play his game. And yeah, yeah, that's the movie. They're sent photos of his victims, and they're given, basically they're sent the photo at like 7 a.m. and they have until 9 p.m. to figure out who they are and rescue them. And it really seems like just because of the way James Bader's character, Marissa Tomei plays a psychiatrist. She's totally unimportant to this entire story. Not necessary. Would have been really important if they had gone the route I expected them to. Pointless the way they did go. James Spader is seeing Marissa Tomei because of psychological problems. So I went, hey, and Keanu Reeves, it's a Fight Club. It's a Fight Club ripoff. They're going to end up being the same. He is the Watcher. And the version with the Keanu Reeves thing is kind of like Brad Pitt and Fight Club. That's what it's going to be, which makes this entire setup, talking to a psychiatrist for parts of this movie, make perfect sense. Nope, they're two separate people. They're clearly two separate people. It's just a bad movie. Like this is a bad movie. I was uninterested. Like I was interested, and then I lost my interest, and the movie never, got it back. Keanu Reeves phones in this performance because he didn't want to do this movie. It tells, you can see it. Like, oh man, he does not want to be in this movie. And it's one of those movies where it might have been better if they had cast James Spader and Keanu Reeves to type, because the villain, James Spader, would have had would have given a great performance playing the villain, and Keanu Reeves would have given a great performance playing the FBI agent. But they cast them both against type, and it doesn't work. You can cast one of them against type, and then you bring somebody in to do the other half on type, so at least there is still that consistency. You don't cast them both against type. And it didn't work. I just kept wanting to see James Spader play the villain and Keanu Reeves to play the hero, because I think it just would have worked a lot better and flowed a lot better. So yeah, don't watch The Watcher. It's not worth it. It's not worth watching The Watcher. All right, heading towards the final four. We have My Soul to Take. This is a Wes Craven film. He wrote it and directed it, and he shouldn't have done either. This one's just not good. It's just another one of those. It's just not good. I don't want to sit here and bag on it because it's just not that good. It tries to go against expectation, but because it's a horror film and it just seems like you're going against expectation so many times that it just doesn't matter anymore. I stopped caring. Basically, you have a killer called the Ripper. He is killing people in this small town. You find out that it is some guy who's got a pregnant wife and multiple personality disorder. So the Ripper is one of his personalities. The Ripper tries to make a deal with the personalities that if they just turn their back on his killing, he'll leave them and his wife and child, an unborn child, alone. He doesn't listen to the murderous alter ego, and he calls his doctor, and the cops get called, and he kills his wife, tries to kill his daughter, and is shot a lot. Um, he kills more people and gets shot and stabbed more, and he dies. On the night he dies, 7 babies are born, and it is believed that each of these children carry one of the personalities of the dude who died. Sure. 16 years later, yep, we're jumping 16 years. So all 7 of them are 16 now. It is their birthday in the Ripper celebration, and they start dying by the Ripper. And it's about who is the Ripper, and is it the dude with the split personalities? Is he still alive? Is it one of those? Is it a Jason Voorhees concept, or is it one of the personalities actually the Ripper? And yeah, yeah, it's bad. They set up a bunch of love interests among the 7, and then you start killing them. This is one of those movies you can almost say they had no interest. Like this seemed like Wes Craven just giving the middle finger to the horror industry, which would be fine if that's what he was doing. I don't think that's what he was doing. But it's a bad movie. I highly suggest not watching My Soul to Take if you're doing like a Wes Craven kind of like I'm gonna watch a bunch of Wes Craven movies. Skip My Soul to Take. It's not worth it. Just go straight to Scream 4. Cause no, it's not a good movie. It's just really not. And it tries to have twists that make no sense because like I just don't do this. Like, you're like, this is just an unacceptable twist. Shut up and just end this movie already. All right, next up we have In the Line of Fire, continuing my watching of Clint Eastwood movies because I've apparently never watched any with him in it. People keep saying I've probably seen Gran Torino. I've seen bits of it. I don't know if I've sat down and watched the whole movie. This one, Clint Eastwood plays a Secret Service agent who was on the detail for Kennedy when he was assassinated, and is now being targeted by a new assassin who wants to play a game with him to try to figure out who he is before he assassinates the current president. Who they try really hard to cover up who it is, because I guess they wanted you to think it was either Clinton or Bush, because this movie came out in an election year. Like, by the time this movie came out, the election had happened, but it wasn't. But it was, going on, the campaigning was going on when they were filming it, so they just like show the president in faraway views with an actor who might look like Clinton and might look like Bush, except he looks like neither, so they might as well just have made up a name for this president, but they don't. They just give him the code name of Traveler, whatever. So yeah, it's long. Like I just laid out the plot. It's supposed to be a mystery, but you're aware it's John Malkovich. It's John Malkovich. And by the time any intrigue starts of, but why is John Malkovich wanting to do this? You're like an hour and 15 minutes into this movie, and it doesn't matter anymore, and there's still 45 minutes left. Then you get the answers, and there's a half an hour of the movie left. Like it's not good. I've seen better Clint Eastwood movies. I read on IMDb that this was like his farewell to Dirty Harry, and if that's the case, I may have to revamp my Dirty Harry placements because this one, I don't know. I kind of might have liked Sudden Impact a little more. At least it was brief. At least Sudden Impact was short, comparatively. Although that movie is still atrociously bad, comparative to 4 really good movies. This one wasn't that good. I don't recommend it. If you're gonna watch a Clint Eastwood movie, there are better ones. I've reviewed better ones. Any of the Dirty Harry movies, Space Cowboys, Fistful of Dollars for a few dollars more. I don't know. This one and Absolute Power are the bottom of my Clint Eastwood listings right now. Um, because there isn't anything that makes me like go, oh, I get why people would like this. This is just like I don't get it. It's got a 7 point something on IMDb, and I'm like, why? Why do people rate this movie so high? I don't get it. I don't understand it. Maybe I needed to see it in '93, but I wasn't gonna watch this movie in '93. That wasn't gonna happen. All right, second to last movie I've got is The Call. This is from the director of Final Destination. It's nothing like Final Destination. This seems more like it should have been part of an anthology horror movie. Like if they had shortened it, it would have fit in perfectly. But because it's its own movie, it's just bad and slow and boring. Very boring. Like In the Line of Fire was dull, but it was well acted and dull. So at least there was that. The Call is dull and dull. It stars Lin Shaye and Tobin Bell, who are some horror movie icons at this point. Uh, trying. They're trying. God bless them, they're trying. Basically, in this town, there's a new kid who comes to school that's really pointless. I'm saying it. I'm going, well, I know how this movie ends, and it's all pointless. Um, he's told that there's a witch who lives in town, played by Lynn Shay, and Tobin Bell is her husband. And they go up to her house because a child went. She ran a daycare center, and a child went missing. And it's one of the three friends the new kid made's sister went missing on her birthday, and they blamed Lynn Shay for it because she's a witch. And they go up there and like throw shit at her house and break windows and do damage. And on this particular instance, she confronts the four of them. Even though the new kid doesn't throw anything, he's just there. He just happens to be there. Okay, he'll do nothing wrong. And the rest of this, like he did something wrong in the past, kind of, maybe. I'm not 100% sure. I don't think he's done anything wrong in hindsight. But I'll press on. I'm just gonna spoil this movie by the end of this. Once I get there, because it's not worth watching. It's not even worth kind of. This isn't even a curiosity watch. Like The Lodge is worth curiosity watching. This one's just bad. Um, she ends up killing herself. Lynn Shay ends up committing suicide. A few weeks later, Tobin Bell invites the four kids over to his house and tells them that she has left them $10,000 each in her will as long as they do one thing, and that is go upstairs to the second story of the house, go to a phone, dial the number that is written next to the phone, and spend 1 minute on the phone. The phone in question is buried with Lynn Shay's character. That's all they have to do to get $10,000, and they go up individually, and they go out through the back of the house. It turns out that this phone connects to hell, and if you're connected to hell, you get dragged into hell. And you have to find a phone in hell to call back to get out of hell. Otherwise, you're trapped in hell and to be tormented. And the first guy that goes up there, he was abused by his father, and that's what he faces in hell is the abuse. And he doesn't stand up to his dad even in this state. So he's stuck in hell. And the second guy that goes up is his brother, and he was also abused by dad because they shared a dad. He also doesn't stand up to his dad, and bam, he's stuck in hell. Third person to go up is the new kid, and his hell is before he moved. He moved because he had gotten a girl pregnant. They had an argument, but it was a very like reasonable argument that would happen in teenagers when it comes to having a baby. And when you tell people that you have a baby, he wanted to wait until the end of the school year because apparently they're very close to the end of the school year, and they're seniors, so he just wanted to wait until then. She didn't. This led to an argument. I'm really not trying to like shame either side here because these arguments do happen, and she left very upset because neither one was seeing the other one's side. To be perfectly honest, and she drives off and gets into a car accident and dies. That's what he's facing, which I get it. Like you feel the grief because the only reason she left angry and that might have inhibited her driving was because of this argument, and might have dawned on him like after that maybe her way of thinking was right in this situation. So I get it. I get that. And he eventually finds the phone and he gets out and he warns the girl who has the dead sister not to make the call. And then Tobin Bell shows up and yells at them, and he shoots Tobin Bell because Tobin Bell has a gun, is threatening to kill them, and is trying to force the girl to take the phone and get pulled into hell. So he shoots Tobin Bell. They run, they try to find an alternate exit. Eventually they get separated, and the girl picks up the phone. Phone rings, she answers it, because that's what you do knowing what it's going to do. So she gets sucked into hell, and guess what? Lynn Shay didn't murder her sister. She did. She killed her sister and blamed it on this woman, and because of how she felt bad about it, kept tormenting. Stupid. Oh, such a stupid twist. Like, why? What? No. This is a bad twist. Like, so she became a witch because you called her a witch? What? So she ends up getting trapped in hell too because she can't get over what she did to her sister, which makes sense because she deserves to go to hell. Finally, the new kid walks in and the phone rings. So what does he do? He answers it. He answers the phone to hell. And he's sucked into hell and trapped there because he shot Tobin Bell, I guess? But he had a gun. He was trying to send the one girl to hell, and although, yeah, she deserved it, he didn't know that. He didn't know that. All he saw, gun, phone to hell. And he gets trapped in hell. Like I said, this would make a lot more sense if it was like one part of an anthology where everything generally, an anthology of horror, generally everything ends on a very bleak ending because, you just have more and you build and eventually you get to something that might be a happy ending or a happy ending in the universe that, these stories take place in. In this particular one, it's like, oh, this is just a movie with a bleak ending. Everyone's dead, suffering in hell. There we go. So you die, you go to hell. That's what this movie has taught me. The Call is awful. Don't watch it. I watched it out of morbid curiosity, and now I'm trying to help you people who watch this video not to watch it. It ain't worth it. You could do much better with an hour and a half of your life. Also, it's kind of boring. All right. The final movie I have for you this week, I didn't actually think this would take me 40 minutes again, is The French Connection. This is a Best Picture winner. Um, there are parts of it that I really liked. And I can understand, I can see why this won Best Picture. I can see why people love this movie. To me, it just never grabbed me. Like, it never had that thing that pulled me in. It tried to in the early stages, and even like in the middle of the movie, it tried to grab me again, but it just never did. Um, like I said, it wasn't bad. In no way is this a bad movie. It's just not a movie for me. To sum it up as quickly as I can, basically you have a pair of narcotics cops who are trying to stop a giant shipment of drugs coming in from France, basically. It's a couple of Frenchmen who are using American connections to smuggle in these drugs, and it's about their investigation. Gene Hackman is great in this movie. He does do a great performance. If you love Popeye's Chicken, I learned today that that's how Popeye's Chicken got its name, is Gene Hackman. His character's nickname is Popeye, and the dude who started Popeyes loved this movie, so he named his restaurant after his favorite movie character, which makes sense. I mean, if I were to open a restaurant, I might call it Gremlins or Gizmo or Billy or Pelsers, or I might do that myself. So that's cool. Um, Overall, French Connection isn't a movie for me, but I do watching it. I did get why people like it, why it's considered a classic. Um, and I'm not gonna rain on that because what I've thought about it, it doesn't overshadow. Like it wasn't. I just ragged on The Call, but The Call was seriously a bad movie. Like that is just a seriously bad movie. This one wasn't a bad movie. It just wasn't a movie for me. And I think that's a very, that's something we as people don't realize sometimes is that not every movie is for us. I can bag on any movie I want. I could pick apart any movie I want. But the question is, am I doing it because it's seriously a bad movie or seriously something like really annoyed me? Or is it just because I didn't get into it? Like it just wasn't a movie I got into. And that's just the French Connection. I didn't get into it. I don't see anything really bad about this movie, other than some stuff that does not age well. There's a little bit of that, but there's nothing that really like bugged me. It wasn't bad. It wasn't poorly acted. Everything was good about it. Um, it's just I didn't care for it. So yeah. So that is my uh, movies I haven't watched. Movies I'd never seen before. Watched them for the first time. Definitely check out Carnage and Laser Team 1 and 2. Never watch The Call. That's what you should take from this. I am Martin Prevost. This is, of course, Rank the Movies right there. Haha, finally! This is Rank the Movies. Like, comment, subscribe. Check out the video that posted today talking about Southland Tales. I love that movie. There'll be another video down the line after I watch the director's cut, which I finally got a copy of. I'm excited. And check back next week when I am talking about the Men in Black franchise. I think there's one between Southland Tales and that. I'm not 100% sure. You know what? No one's probably actually watching this, so I'm just going to check for my own benefit. That's the wrong thing. Next week we have Men in Black franchise. So I'm going to talk about all 4 Men in Black films. Primarily, it's just me ranting about Men in Black International. So if you want to hear me rant about a movie I really don't care for, definitely tune into next Wednesday's video. I don't know when I'm going to do another one of these movies from the Unwatched shelf. I still got about 20-something movies on it right now. That might get cut down a little bit just by me going, I'm never going to watch this. Let's be real here. But the next time I got a decent stack of movies I've never watched before that I finally got around to watching, I'll be back for another live stream. Have a great day. Keep it safe out there on St. Patrick's Day. And I will see you next time on Rank the Movies.